Hello, you're about to see a video of trail details from Damascus to Feathercamp Branch. This is our first hike in Virginia after we skipped up from Tesnatee to get ahead or avoid all the fires that were going on. At the end, Arnie's going to explain all this stuff to you. I haven't got a clue.
Well, you could say it's severely cold-natured. I mean, there is no way to describe how cold-natured I am. And this, I'm not carrying all this. This is kind of a process. I'm still going through glove situation. Have yet to find a way to keep my fingers from being totally numb. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to show you what I've worked out based on, we hiked in the winter last season, and we're starting in the winter. I love winter hiking. I just love it. And I hate summer hiking. I mean, I hate summer worse than I don't like winter. I love winter, but my body doesn't like it. So I really have to do things that the average person doesn't have to do in order to not end up sneezing continuously and having chills. And so it's this micromanaging thing to be warm enough but not sweat, and then what I have to go through during the day and ways I find to do it so I don't have to stop and take my backpack out and stuff like that. So that's kind of what this is all about. And it's, again, this is not the average person. There's only those out there who are truly severely cold-natured can probably relate to this. The average person would call this massive overkill, but for me, it's not. For me, it's how can I get out there? It's either find a way to deal with the cold-naturedness or don't go until it's warmer. And no, we want to go. I want to go in the winter. Already done it. Know I can do it. And then I also want to clarify one other thing. Some people have come in. Thank you so much for the people that are subscribing and watching and liking, and we really appreciate it. And I've already met and made, I think, some new friends just on the YouTube connections, which is really quite a treat. But I just want to clarify, because some people haven't watched our first two videos and may not understand. The videos that we're showing are from our last season hike, and the reason we put them together is the entire time we were hiking last year, I never really talked to G about this at the time, but the whole time we were hiking, and mainly it was, G-speed, it was all about his health. We had to just get out there and get him doing something that was going to basically extend his life. And, try to get him healthier because it's his only option for getting better. So that is the purpose of what we did, and that was the whole focus. While at the same time, when he started having situations where he needed to rest and I was feeling fit and wanted to hike, we ended up having me hike sections without him. And during that time, I worked up to about 12 miles, I think, on one of the tougher sections, 14 miles once, that I could do in a day. And I love it. I absolutely love it, and just kept thinking, wow, I would love to thru hike. So after we got home, we decided that we were going to do that. And how could we combine? Because he needs to get back out there, and he needs to do short health hikes with no pressure to do a certain number of miles, no pressure to hike every day. And the only way he can do that is if he has a vehicle there, and he could do like a park, go out, come back. And so I have spent hours looking at AWOL, gut hooks, and the ATC maps, and figured out how probably 95% of the time from Springer to, or from Amicalola to Maryland, really, is as far as I've really looked at it in detail. After that, I'll worry about later. But up until that point, that probably 95% of the time I could hike, as long as I can do 15 to 16 miles, say at least 30% of the time, then I can hike close enough to a trailhead so that he only has to hike up from his vehicle 1 to 2 miles to get to where I'm camping. And then the next day he can hike out slow, and I'll just take off and go to wherever the next spot's going to be. So that's the plan. I mean, I want to do this as a traditional thru hiker. Obviously, I will always know that I can bail. That's the one difference. You can't take away from the fact that I will always know that I can bail. But it's just like, if somebody says they're doing a fastest known time hike, you don't know if they're taking assistance or if they're cheating. I mean, it's all about integrity, and you're doing you know, are you doing what you say you're doing? And anybody that knows me knows that if I bail, I'm going to say I bailed, or if I break the rules that I've set for myself, I'm going to say I broke the rules that I set for myself. But I want to do it, you know, I want to know, can I take this body that was so broken down and so had become so sedentary for so long due to illness, get to a point to where I could actually accomplish a thru hike, doing everything I can to fix, strengthen, and toughen up the things that experienced last season that would have totally prevented a thru hike. And so that's the process I'm in now. So the benefit of these videos for anybody that's thinking of thru hiking is, well, the first 38 miles there was Georgia, but Virginia, there's a lot of things there that nobody has showed you before. Kiwi talked about him quite a lot, and he made it to Daleville, and that's we made it to McAfee Knob. So before we had to come home. But anyway, I show massive amounts of trail detail, and you will see some surprises that you weren't told about before. Things that, you know, I was ranting and raving at certain times about why haven't the Thru Hiker videos shown these things and talked about them. And Early Riser talked about them too. Steve Walker did talk about them some, didn't have a lot of videos of them because he was concentrating on getting through these situations probably safely, but he would talk about them at the end of the day from his 2016 hike. But anyway, in these videos you could see it because, as G said in the very first video we ever did, you know, I have a lot of time waiting on him to do things like take videos of trail terrain. So if you're interested, you can see the first 240 miles of Virginia coming up over these next videos and see the kinds of things that you're going to face that hopefully won't surprise you as much because you saw it ahead of time. So, long intro, but that pretty well sums it up. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you kind of where I am on this micromanaging of the severely cold-natured so that I can make it if the weather goes down to 5 degrees and a blizzard shows up and we can't get off the mountain, or I can't get to him to hunker down in a van, or and keep in mind too, you know, anywhere he can get to, a shuttle driver can get to. So any thru hiker can bail at any trailhead, pretty much. And keeping that in mind, then I'm really no different than any other thru hiker, except that my shuttle driver happens to be there, and if I decided to bail, you know, he would be there. But I'm going to approach it as if he's not there, because I want to know, can I do it? And that's the plan. So I hope you'll stick around and watch. And you got anything to add to all that?
Well, Tchulov says sometimes it's just better to grow your own. Fur, that is.
Okay, I'm never at a loss for words. But I am now. So have a blessed day and get out and hike.
Good morning. Nancy and I are here at Mom's Diner on the north side of Damascus, Virginia.
Another fire broke out right in front of us.
Yeah, if I hadn't been feeling bad, we would have been on the backside of that mountain and right in the middle of the fire. But
Yep.
I was feeling bad, so that slowed us down, so we didn't get that far.
So we just hopped up to Virginia because it's just too hard dealing with no water, and there's no water in Georgia, there's no water in North Carolina, and there's no water in Tennessee, but there is water in Virginia. Still fire bans up here, and they consider this, you know, kind of a drought going on, but they have water at all the, quote, reliable water sources. So it's a lot better place for us to be for the 9 days or so that we have left before we go celebrate a very special birthday. Have a blessed day.
Goodbye.
As we said, we came up here to Damascus, Virginia, and we're actually, as far as the trail goes, the north end, it's the east side of Damascus. So when we go back to Georgia eventually and head north, this is where we'll finish, coming around this corner on Highway 58 where the AT hooks in with the Virginia Creeper Trail. I asked the local where the name creeper came from. He said there's several stories that go around, but it has to do with trains that would be coming down the mountain, and they actually would turn off the engine and creep down, just I guess using their brakes. So we ate at this little yellow building up there. On the other side of it is the restaurant we had breakfast at, and as it turned out, we had a little nursing situation with a local that came up, so we've ended up spending quite a bit of time here. And so we're going to go 1 mile, that's G down there, going to go 1 mile up where there's supposed to be a campsite, and camp there. We considered just waiting until tomorrow, but we decided it's early enough, we will go ahead. And apparently there are fires behind us, but none in front of us, and so there may be some smoke in this situation too, but there's definitely water, so things should be a little better here. We came to this little sign here talking about the Creeper Trail, where it came from. It was part of the Rails to Trails, and how the Creeper Trail and bicycles and the Appalachian Trail coming through Damascus basically returned it to an economically viable place, where it was hurt in the 60s when trains were no longer being used to take lumber off the mountain. And if you've read this, 1907 and 1930, 15 million board feet of lumber removed in a typical year. And this county in Virginia produced more lumber than any county in the United States, and more than the entire state of Pennsylvania. Pretty amazing. So G heads off down the trail. There is our double blaze telling us we're changing direction, and we are going to climb those stairs. Yippee! See that white piece of paper over there? And it's actually right above a piped spring for water. The first sign that there is water life in Virginia, which is one of the reasons we decided to come up this far. Well, we've been talking about climbing ladders. This really is a ladder. G just counted them, 22 steps. We decided this is just like climbing the stairs in the big mansion behind our church. Good thing we had some practice on that before we ended up heading out to this little adventure of ours. Well, 22 steps up the ladder. Yahoo! Well, G knows this, we talked about it, but what I didn't say at the beginning of the video, not just those stairs, the ladder stairs, we gotta go up about 500 feet before we get to our little camp spot, so looks like fun. And as they often do, after you've come up from a trailhead 100 feet or so, they have a little sign, let you know where you're headed. Appalachian Trail, the Iron Mountain Trail, about 2.5 miles, US 58. Which is actually an area where there is a parking area, and they have a privy and trash receptacles, which are always handy. 4.5 miles. And the Saunders Shelter, 8.5 miles. So that's where we were headed over the next couple of days. So I guess we're going from about 1900 to about 2400 today. And we're much lower than we have been. Hopefully that's going to reflect in the temperature compared to the ground towns, but it is supposed to be in the low 30s tonight, so it was last night. But again, we're handling it. Looks like we've given up acorns, and now, where we are right now, pine cones all over the trail. Don't want to slip on the pine cones. We're gonna cross a dry creek bed here. This is what they call an unreliable water source, and all of the unreliable ones are dry. So if you were here, which way across this dry creek bed would you choose? This log that looks like it's been here for 100 years, which I'm sure some of the youngers skip across, or going down into where the dry creek bed is and walking through there. Pretty much a no-brainer for us. We choose the low road on this one. This is looking off to our right, which is west, because there is the sun going down. Pretty bright. Actually a little bit on the warm side. And yes, that haze is probably smoke from that other fire to the south of us that we were told about today. It's not really affecting us here, but that sun's going to go behind that big mountain. That is much higher than we are. So it's going to get shady here pretty soon and probably get dark pretty early. Hopefully we can get to our campsite before that happens. We are headed east to Mount Rogers, so that is behind us. So what do you think is the most significant difference in say, this 500-foot uphill that we're having to do that's pretty steep versus some of the ones we did in Georgia?
Well, the overall hill is typically a lot steeper, and you do see a lot of rhododendrons, which we also saw in Georgia. But the main difference is that there are not as many rocks, and not as many rock steps and those flat stone diverters with the knob. And so from that standpoint, your footing is more secure, and it's easier to climb, although it's still steep.
It's steep and it makes you very winded. Makes me very winded. I agree with all that. It's definitely easier in a lot of ways. Lots of pine trees. All right, continuing eastward on the northbound. So we have gotten up to 2405, 500 feet, probably the fastest we've ever done 500 feet up in a mile. And the cool thing is we are going to see a sunset through the trees, and that is west. And if we happen to be up paying attention, we just might see a sunrise over the mountain through the trees tomorrow. Maybe pretty windy up here, I don't know, but it's not windy now, so maybe nothing like what we went through at Swaim Gap. Anyway, we're ready for cold. We carried a lot of weight up here, so lots of warm clothes, so we're not too worried about it. Somebody's even put a log up for a bench. I'm not sure how they connected it over here. Put a steel, looks like a railroad spike or something through there. Hold it up on this side, and first order of business is get that rope up to hang your bear bag. First try. Is he good or what? I'm impressed. I'm so glad he's taken over that chore. He never really asked me to do it. I was just trying to do it because I wanted to see if I could, and nope, I'm not very good at it, so. So Shajulev wasn't in our picture this morning because we didn't have our backpacks on, I guess. I'll try and get her in the sunset picture today. Look, she looks like she's smiling. She says she likes this place. Beautiful.
Hello.
So G is fixing the tie-outs for the fly on the tent. There you go. Has it been a good day, Shajulev? Good. And while that's going down back there, this is our view to the east. I think tomorrow we're going up there. That's about another 400 feet. And then I'm not sure if we walk along this ridge or exactly what we do, but. So here we are at dusk with our tent up. Still as can be. It was very windy where we were down lower last night. Great campsite here. About 1 mile off the Creeper Trail going north.